Angeles. He got his pilot's license as a teenager and flew B-17s in World War II. Roddenberry was decorated with the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Air Medal. After the war, Sergeant Roddenberry saw television for the first time and decided he wanted to become a writer. More than a decade later, Star Trek was born. It was a show that the networks first described as too cerebral.
I tell a story about my own father the night Star Trek first showed on the air. He excused himself and walked up and down the street and apologized to all the neighbors. It was just a strange thing to a lot of people. And slowly it's become very popular, which I think is very proper because science fiction is a playground for the imagination.
But Roddenberry never gave up on the Starship Enterprise. And now, 25 years later, his vision of the future is still with us. Roddenberry was 70.
And fans and colleagues mourn the loss of the man who created one of television's most popular series. CNN Headline News, I'm David Goodnow. The creative genius behind the Star Trek television series is dead. Gene Roddenberry died of a heart attack at a Santa Monica, California hospital Thursday. Officials say Roddenberry collapsed at his doctor's office before being rushed to the hospital. Leonard Nimoy, who played Mr. Spock in the series, said Roddenberry had an extraordinary vision about mankind. Gene Roddenberry was 70. CNN Headline News, I'm David Goodnow. It has been said the legacy of Gene Roddenberry will live on forever. Certainly his creative talent and imagination captured the hearts of many thousands of people who grew up with a special fascination for space because of the Star Trek television series. Roddenberry died Thursday at a Los Angeles hospital after suffering a massive heart attack. Dennis Michael looks back on his successful career.
Space. Final frontier.
When producer Gene Roddenberry pitched the idea of the original Star Trek to network executives in the mid-1960s, he described it in contemporary terms. Wagon train to the stars, he called it, but the idea he was creating was entirely new, turning pessimistic and genre-bound science fiction into mainstream entertainment.
Science fiction was not a big thing in America at that time. They kept science fiction books almost in brown covers under the counter, like dirty literature. And with Star Trek, it sort of was introduced to the American public, but it takes a time.
The former airline pilot turned television writer was forced to make 2 pilots for the series before NBC execs took a chance on Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, and Dr. McCoy. The show ran for 3 seasons to poor reviews and misleadingly low ratings. Huge write-in campaigns from fans saved the show from cancellation twice. But cancellation turned into rebirth for the show. The program became enormously popular and profitable in syndication, and thus moved on to the big screen. The voyages of the Starship Enterprise were set in the future, but they dealt with the present. Roddenberry used tomorrow as a lens to focus on today.
There's nothing more tiresome than somebody getting up on a soapbox in the middle of the film. It must be part of your story and flow in without you realizing it. Comment should be like music. It flows in and you don't know it's there even, but yet it's tugging and making you cry and all of that.
Star Trek has spawned 5 motion pictures with a 6th awaiting release around Thanksgiving. It's a film that promises to be the final voyage of the original cast. Meanwhile, Star Trek The Next Generation has imitated its predecessor in becoming a huge hit in television syndication. After 25 years, the Star Trek phenomenon shows every sign of continuing.
Let's make sure history never forgets the name Enterprise.
In conceiving of a future in which all peoples work together and making that optimistic view a mainstream vision, Roddenberry truly went where no one had gone before. Gene Roddenberry was 70.